My name is Natalie Harris. I'm 35, single, and a senior interior designer based in Boulder, Colorado. After 3 years of back-to-back client projects, 70-hour work weeks, and living off coffee and deadlines, I decided I'd had enough. I needed something radical. Not a weekend at a spa, not a Netflix binge. I needed silence, stillness, nature. I needed Yosemite. This wasn't a spontaneous idea. For 3 years, I'd saved bits and pieces, birthday bonuses, unspent holiday pay, even tips from small side jobs until I had enough to fund 2 weeks off the grid. No email, no Zoom calls. Just pine trees, granite cliffs, and me. The decision felt like a resurrection. I booked a wilderness hiking retreat in the heart of Yosemite, complete with a small group, a guide, and scheduled digital detox. The plan was to leave May 12 and return May 26. 2 weeks to breathe, reset, and come back as someone who remembered who she was before exhaustion became her personality. The first person I told was my best friend Melissa, who screamed so loud in the coffee shop that people turned around. "Yes, Natalie, finally! You're choosing yourself." The second people I told were my parents. We had a family dinner in Tucson, our usual spot. A dimly lit Italian place with mediocre lasagna and great tiramisu. My mom smiled politely. My dad nodded, barely lifting his eyes from his menu. And my younger sister, Emily? She just gave that neutral, tight-lipped look she's mastered since middle school. No one said much. Still, I went home feeling oddly proud. I had drawn a line. I had made a choice that didn't orbit around my family's gravity. For once, 1 week later, my mom called. "Honey," she began cheerily, "Emily has the most wonderful idea. She's planned a family trip to Orlando Disney World. The kids are thrilled. It'll be the whole gang, your dad and I, Emily, the little ones. We leave May 12 and come back the 26th. Isn't that perfect?" I didn't answer right away. She kept going. "And of course, it wouldn't be the same without you. We haven't all traveled together in years. It'll mean the world to the kids. You'll come, right?" I stared at my phone. My heart sank. May 12 through 26. The exact dates of my Yosemite trip. It wasn't even a conflict. It was a direct collision. And where say no one had consulted me. No one had even asked. It wasn't just disrespect. It was something deeper. Something that whispered, "Your time doesn't matter. Your dreams are optional." I said nothing on the call. But in my chest, I felt something crack. And I knew this time I wasn't going to bend. I wish I could say this was the first time my plans had been sidelined. But the truth is, my whole life has been a masterclass in making room for Emily. She's 3 years younger, louder, more dramatic, and somehow, always the sun around which the rest of us orbit. Growing up, she was the one who felt things deeply, while I was so easygoing, translated. Her needs came first. Mine were optional. I remember in high school I got accepted into a summer art program in San Francisco. I was thrilled, terrified, but thrilled. But the same week, Emily had her first cheerleading nationals. My parents sat me down and gently explained we'd have to choose one trip. "She needs the support," Mom had said. "You'll have other summers." I didn't go. At 22, I graduated top of my class in design school. The ceremony was on the same weekend as Emily's baby shower. No one from the family showed up to my graduation. My mom mailed me a card 3 days later with a $25 Target gift card and a note. "So proud of you, sweetheart. Sorry we couldn't be there. Emily's swelling was just awful." When Grandma died, it was me who flew in early, met with the funeral home, helped write the obituary. Emily said she was too emotional to handle the logistics. At every turn, I adjusted. They never said it outright, but the message was loud and clear. Emily's life was full, mine was flexible, especially because I didn't have kids. That's what they'd always say, with a gentle shrug. "You know, you're just at a different stage," or "We just assumed you'd be more flexible, you don't have a family to worry about," as if I wasn't a family member. As if I was just a convenient plug-in where needed. Meanwhile, my career took off. I became one of the youngest lead designers at a Boulder firm. I worked with clients from Seattle to Savannah. But the more I succeeded professionally, the less my family seemed to notice. I stopped mentioning promotions or awards. They didn't care. Unless I showed up to babysit or cover for someone, I was invisible. For the past year, I'd been running on fumes. My sleep was a wreck. I drank coffee like it was water. I was getting tension migraines so bad I'd have to lie on the floor of my office with the lights off. Then came my annual physical. Dr. Klein, who doesn't sugarcoat, looked at my blood work and said flatly, "Natalie, this isn't sustainable. Your cortisol is through the roof. You either take time off or your body will force it on you." I laughed. Then I cried. In her office. A week later, my HR manager, Denise, called me in. "You haven't taken a full week off in almost 4 years," she said, sliding a chart across the table. "We're flagging it internally as a burnout risk. We're requiring you take 2 weeks off before June. No checking email." Fully unplugged. And so I'd planned it. Every step, every meal prepped, every hike mapped. Yosemite wasn't just a vacation, it was a lifeline. But the moment my mom said, "The kids are counting on you," I felt that old reflex kick in. Push it aside. Make it work. Be the easy one. Except this time. Something inside me whispered, "Don't you dare." The pressure campaign started within hours of that phone call. That night, I got a text from my mom with a photo of my niece Emma holding a pair of Minnie Mouse ears. The caption read, "Can't wait for Aunt Natalie to come to Disney." Then came the group chat. Not just my immediate family, but cousins, aunts, even grandma. Suddenly, I was added to a thread titled, "Harris Family Magic 2024 Copes messages poured in. So excited for this once-in-a-lifetime memory. Finally, all of us together again hasn't happened in years. Natalie, I assume you'll help coordinate the kids' meals? You're always so organized." They were planning this like I'd already said yes, like I didn't have a whole life, a whole plan, already in motion. No one asked if I was available. No one cared that I wasn't. I stayed silent. The next morning, Emily sent me a voice memo. Her tone was syrupy at first, like she was walking on eggshells. Then it turned sharp. "Look, I know you've got this hiking thing or whatever, but the kids have really been needing something joyful after the divorce. This trip is more than a vacation, it's healing. You can hike anytime. But this is family." I texted back. "I've already paid for my trip. It's non-refundable. I've had this planned for months." She didn't reply for hours. When she did, it was a screenshot of Emma's drawing a stick figure family at Disney with a sad face in the corner labeled Natalie. That night, my dad called. He doesn't usually get involved. "Natalie," he said, "when you were little, remember how excited you'd get when Aunt Jean would come to your school events? Remember how it felt when people showed up for you?" I said nothing. He sighed. "You're always so independent. But family isn't about independence, it's about compromise." I wanted to scream. Where was compromise when I moved my college graduation dinner because of Emily's engagement photos? Where was it when I worked overtime to help Mom pay off the plumbing bill Emily couldn't cover? Where was it every time I swallowed my needs so Emily's didn't go unmet? This wasn't about compromise. This was about control. Still, I tried to meet them halfway. I offered to take the kids to that new indoor water park the weekend before. I said I'd bring back hand-carved gifts from Yosemite. I even offered to set up a Zoom call from the top of Glacier Point so they could join me virtually. Emily dismissed every offer. "That's not the point," she snapped. "The point is being together. At Disney. Not afterward. Not in spirit. You're either part of the family or you're not." The final blow came 3 days later. Mom called me in the middle of a work meeting. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, her voice was shaking. "Emily's really hurt, Natalie. She says the kids are starting to feel like you don't love them. I don't know what to tell them. We all thought you'd jump at this. You're single, no kids. We just assumed you'd want to come." That word again. Assumed. Like my life was just open for interruption. Like I was a convenience. Then came the intervention. A surprise dinner at Mom's house. I walked in and saw half the extended family already seated. Aunt Linda, Uncle Tom, even Cousin Rachel from Phoenix. Mom stood. "We're doing this out of love," she began. "We're concerned about the choices you're making." Everyone took turns. Aunt Linda, "Skipping family for a solo hike? That's not normal." Uncle Tom, "You work too hard. You need us." Grandma, "Those kids adore you. You'll break their hearts." And Emily, tears in her eyes, voice shaking. "Picture perfect victim. I just don't understand how you could be so selfish," she said. "You know how hard this year's been, and now you're just abandoning us?" I looked around the room. Dozens of faces I'd grown up loving, and not one person asked what I needed. Not one. That's when the rage truly hit, not loud or violent, but quiet and steady, like a door locking from the inside. It hit me in the middle of the cereal aisle. A regular Tuesday morning at the grocery store. I was standing there, deciding between granola or oatmeal, when my phone buzzed again. A message from my mom. "Your father hasn't been sleeping. He says your decision is breaking the family apart. We just don't understand how you could do this to us. Are you punishing us for something?" And beneath that, a forwarded photo from Emily, a drawing by her youngest. It showed a stick figure family smiling under a Disney castle. In the corner, a frowning woman holding a suitcase. The caption in crayon read, "Aunt Natalie left us." The box of cereal slipped from my hands. My chest tightened, my breath caught. I grabbed the shopping cart for balance, heart racing like a drum in my ears. I thought I was having a heart attack. A woman nearby asked if I was okay. I nodded, lying. I left the cart and walked straight out of the store, keys shaking in my hand. In the car, I broke. Tears streamed down my face, hot and silent. The guilt was unbearable deep, familiar, paralyzing. For a moment I thought, maybe I should just cancel, just go, be done with this. But I didn't call Emily, I called Melissa. She picked up on the second ring. I could barely speak. "I think I'm having a breakdown in the Safeway parking lot." She didn't say calm down. She didn't say they love you. She said, "That's how they get you." That sentence stopped me. She told me about the time she tried to skip a weekly Sunday dinner with her parents to study for her medical board exam. Her mom cried. Her dad guilted her. Her brother texted her articles about how people die alone when they don't stay close to family. "It's emotional blackmail, Nat," she said. "They make you feel like you're choosing cruelty when all you're choosing is yourself." I sat there in the car, still shaking, while her words landed. Maybe this wasn't abandonment. Maybe it was survival. Melissa gently urged me to go back to therapy. I hadn't been in nearly a year, had convinced myself I was fine. Functional. Focused. But I wasn't fine. I was cracking. That night, I booked an emergency session with Dr. Lerner, my old therapist. I told her everything. The trip, the guilt, the pressure, the cereal aisle. She listened quietly, then said, "This sounds less like rebellion, and more like a pattern that's finally being broken." She wasn't surprised by the panic attack. When you've spent your life earning love by pleasing others, doing something for yourself feels dangerous. I nodded, breath caught in my throat. I didn't feel brave. I felt alone. But also somewhere deep down, I felt the first flicker of clarity. They weren't punishing me because I hurt them. They were punishing me because I stopped making them comfortable. The morning after my therapy session, I sat in bed long after sunrise. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't check the group chat. Instead, I pulled out an old leather-bound notebook that had gathered dust on my shelf. On the first page, I wrote the words, "Things I've given up," and then I began. The art program. The graduation ceremony. The solo apartment in Denver I let go of so I could stay close when Emily had her second baby. The weekends I skipped rest to babysit. The vacations I never took. The promotions I delayed because someone needed help moving. 3 pages later, my hand hurt, but my head felt clear. Later that day, I met with Dr. Lerner again. She gently introduced a term I'd never heard before, emotional enmeshment. She explained, It's when a family blurs boundaries so much that individual needs are treated as threats. Your independence isn't a betrayal, it's just unfamiliar. I asked her, how do you set boundaries without being cruel? She smiled. You practice saying things that are kind but firm. We wrote them together. I love you, but my answer is no. I hear that you're upset, and my decision still stands. You're allowed to be disappointed, and I'm allowed to choose this for myself. It felt strange, like rehearsing lines for a part I didn't yet believe I could play. But every repetition felt like a tiny act of resistance. A step toward myself. That night, I reopened my Yosemite itinerary. I hadn't looked at it since the intervention. There it was, still glowing on the screen. The departure date, the cabin number, the trail maps. I added something new, a reservation for a post-hike massage at a nearby lodge. A gift to my future self. Then, I packed my hiking boots into my suitcase out of defiance, but out of certainty. Before I went to bed, I wrote one more thing. Dear family, I want to be clear because I love you. I'm not coming to Orlando. I'm going to Yosemite, just as I've planned. I won't debate it further. I hope we can speak again when we're all ready to treat each other like adults with different needs. Until then, please respect my space. I sent it to my parents and Emily in a private email. No chat. No comments. Just clarity. Then I turned off my phone, and for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The next morning, I woke early, stepped onto my balcony with a mug of tea, and watched the clouds drift over the Rockies. My chest still ached. The guilt wasn't gone, but it no longer ruled me. That afternoon, I stopped by REI and bought a new water filter and an ultralight pack cover. Not to run away, but to go toward something. Toward peace, toward rest, toward me. The morning I left for Yosemite, the air felt different. Crisper, quieter, like the universe was holding its breath with me. I zipped my duffel shut and paused for one last moment in my apartment. The text notifications were still muted. My email autoresponder still read, on personal leave, no access to phone or internet. My Uber driver made small talk on the way to the airport. I nodded politely, but my mind was elsewhere. I felt equal parts guilt and something new power. Not loud, not arrogant, just quiet strength, like finally standing on solid ground after years of drifting. When my boots hit the dirt in Yosemite, it was like my body remembered something ancient. Each breath felt like medicine. The weight of judgment, obligation, and invisible expectations peeled off like a winter coat I no longer needed. The trails were steep. My legs ached. My phone stayed off. And I had never felt more alive. I met other solo hikers: Claire, a nurse from Michigan recovering from burnout. Luis, a middle school teacher recently divorced. We swapped stories over trail mix and campfire heat, each of us shedding roles and reclaiming names. On the third day, I stood on a ridge overlooking Glacier Point as the sun dipped behind the Sierras. The sky caught fire gold bleeding into lavender. I sat on a rock in silence, knees pulled to my chest, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like someone's sister. Or someone's daughter, or someone's backup plan. I just felt like Natalie. 2 days later, I wandered into a trail lodge to warm up and check in. The Wi-Fi pinged to life, and so did the messages. Dozens. Emily had posted a new photo on Facebook. Her and the kids, arms raised in front of Cinderella's castle. The caption read, "Complete family magic, -1. Some people just don't understand what really matters." The comments ranged from concerned to condemning. One even said, "Maybe Natalie's having a breakdown." For a moment, I felt the familiar sting. That deep reflex to fix it, to explain, to soften the narrative. But I didn't reply. I didn't even open the app again. I turned off the Wi-Fi, ordered hot cocoa, and joined Claire and Luis for a game of cards. That night, wrapped in a wool blanket beside a fireplace, I wrote in my journal, I didn't abandon them, I simply stopped abandoning myself. On my last morning, I woke up early and walked alone to Mirror Lake. The water was so still, It reflected the granite peaks like a memory too perfect to be real. I sat there for nearly an hour, and I cried. Not from sadness, but from release, from peace, from finally keeping a promise to myself. When I got home to Boulder, I unpacked slowly, hung photos of Half Dome on my wall, lit the lavender candle I bought from the mountain shop. I checked my phone one last time. A final text from my mom. We hope it was worth it. I didn't respond, because I knew it was. And not because of what I saw, but because of who I was finally allowed to be. It's been 2 months since Yosemite. The air in Boulder has turned crisp, and the leaves outside my apartment are beginning to catch fire with color. I've traded late-night emails and unpaid overtime for slow mornings, farmers markets, and a new photography class on Thursdays. My apartment feels different now. Not because I redecorated, but because I reclaimed it. It's no longer a holding space between expectations. It's mine. I didn't reach out to my family right away. I needed space, not just physical, but emotional. I muted the group chat indefinitely. I left their messages unread for weeks, and for once, I didn't feel guilty. Then, out of nowhere, my dad called. I almost didn't answer, but something in me whispered, "You're strong enough now." He didn't start with guilt or passive aggression. He simply said, "I saw some of your photos online. They're beautiful, Natalie. You look free." There was a pause, then a quieter voice. "I'm sorry we didn't see how much you needed that." It wasn't everything, but it was a start. A few days later, I got an email from Emily. The subject line, "If you still read these," she wrote, "I've been thinking about our fight. About how quick I was to guilt you into giving up something you worked for. I don't know if I was jealous or just exhausted, but either way, I'm sorry." She admitted she'd shown my niece the Facebook posts, the dramatic ones, as she called them, and regretted it almost immediately. Emma asked me why grown-ups lie to make people look bad. That's when I realized I didn't want to model this for her anymore. I didn't reply that night. I cried instead, not because of pain, but because of something scarier, hope. We've since started rebuilding. Not back to what we were, but into something better, something more honest. We now speak with boundaries. And when one of us steps too far, we name it gently, instead of pretending nothing happened. Last weekend, I invited them all on a fall picnic. My terms, no guilt trips, no last-minute changes. No, just one favor conversations. To my surprise, they came. Even Emily, who brought homemade sandwiches and told Emma ahead of time. "We're going to Aunt Natalie's space today. Let's respect her schedule." It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The truth is, I still love my family, deeply, but love without respect isn't love, it's duty, and I've learned I'm allowed to say no without being cruel. That peace is not earned through silence but through truth. If you've ever been the flexible one, the easy one, the one who always absorbs the blow so others can breathe easier, I hope you know this. Choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish, it makes you whole. And if this story sounds anything like yours, I'd love to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you are in your own story. And if you felt seen today, consider subscribing. Because we all deserve to hear more stories like this. Stories about boundaries, about bravery, and about coming home to ourselves. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever felt like the one who had to bend, to shrink, to stay quiet so others could feel comfortable, then maybe this wasn't just Natalie's journey. Maybe it's yours too. So let me ask you, have you ever chosen yourself and paid the price for it? What boundaries did you have to build to finally feel whole again? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone. You never know who needs to hear it. Someone out there might need your courage to unlock their voice. And if you want more heartfelt, grounded, inspiring stories just like this about healing, family, and finally taking your power back, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Because every week, we tell stories that don't just entertain, they set people free. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.